Hey everybody, Andrew here again. Just thought I'd do a quick review of my roller from Atmizoo. It's a great little mod. It's a very, very tiny little mod. And there it is there. Now this particular one is iced matte. That's the finish on it. So it's a kind of, it's a fairly sort of, I suppose, what would you say, a kind of an industrial kind of a look to it. But they're really, really tiny, these things. So if I get, let me just see here. Theirs is, that's got an 18350 in it at the moment. And there's an 18500 battery beside it. And you can see how small it is. It's really, really tiny. Absolutely gorgeous, gorgeous little thing. Button here. Also with the button, it's a locking button, so what you can do is if you turn it to the side like that, or you can turn it to the other side like that, that means that it won't actually fire. So it'll only fire when it's pointed up like that, which is great because it means that you can actually lock it. Also with this one, this is you've got the dingo and then you've got the roller, and the roller basically what it can do is it can actually extend itself, so it's a telescopic. So if I just show you here, you can see this can be extended out like that, so that basically what you can do is you can put in all the main battery types into it. So you can put in, you know, from an 18350 up to an 18650. So again, very, very handy, very versatile. Also with it, what you get is a flush mounted top and then another one which is slightly raised, so that from an air point of view, you know, if you need to be drawing air in from the sides, you know, you can actually have it set up a little bit higher. So if you look at the top here, you can see that this is the actual flush mounted one, but there is another one which is slightly raised. So what I'll do is we can go in a little bit closer on it and I'll show that to you. But if I pop my 18350 battery back into it, and then what we'll do is we'll stick a K-fun on it. And there we have a K-fun. Let me put that on it there. When you look at it like that, I mean, the K-fun is nearly as big as it is, you know, when it's in 18350 mode. And now we're unlocked there, so give it a go. And it works a treat. Now I've had this quite a long time and it has never not fired. It fires every single time and works flawlessly. The only thing that can happen with it is that sometimes if you get leakage coming from this into this part here, it can actually, you know, sort of gunk things up slightly, so that occasionally this little switch here needs to be cleaned out. So what I'll do is I'll show you how to do that. It's easy enough to do. It's a little bit fiddly. It's something that I've only had to do once in, and how long have I had this? I don't know, 3 months, 4 months maybe. So it's not something that you have to do very often. But again, the good thing is that it is possible to take every single bit apart and put it back together quite easily. So it just means that it's a low maintenance, easy to handle mod. So that's it. So what we'll do is we'll go down close, have a look at it, and then I'll talk to you again afterwards. Okay, so this is what my roller came in. Obviously cardboard box, SSIM, so which is stainless steel iced matte. Now, when you get one of these things, and there are the guys who make it, Atmizoo. Now, when you get it, there it is inside. One thing to be mindful of is that with this, you actually get, as I mentioned before, 2 different ones of these at the top. One which is basically flush, like this one here, and there's another one which is slightly raised. Now, I didn't realize this at the beginning, and what you have to do is you have to actually lift up the inside of the box here, and I can't remember exactly how it came, but I think I'll put this in another bag. But let's just take out what's in here. There's two little baggies, and what we have is in this one we have got the raised one of those, along with a little rubber O-ring which actually goes in underneath the spring, and then in this here we have some spares for the switch assembly, and with those you can see there's a spring, and you can also see that there's a couple of little ball bearings in there. Now I'll show you what they are there for shortly, because if you lose those you're kind of buggered. So anyway, just be mindful that those things are actually in there. Now what I'll do is, as I said before, let's come a bit closer here. There it is, basically 18350 mode. What we can do is we can actually extend that out. Let's just take the battery out, and let's put an 18500 into it, or an 18500. Pop that in there, screw this on, screw this back up again, to about, getting a bit of a resistance there, to about there. So that's it. You're obviously going to, because it's telescopic, you're going to have that there, but that's basically what it's like as an 18500 or an 18490. So let's see if I can find an 18650. Just give me 1 second. Okay, here we go with an 18650 now. So we take this off. I tend to take things off from the top rather than the bottom, but that's just me. So screw this out a fair bit. The 18650 in, we need more on it than that. Screw that out to there, pop this on the top, make sure that our base is screwed in properly here, and screw the whole thing up. And there we are. That is it as 18650. Now, if it so happened that you wanted to actually kick it and stick a kick in, then you can get a kick ring. And here's the kick ring. Now you buy this as a separate, it doesn't actually come with it. So we'll pop that on there. I've got a kick here, an evolve kick. So we can do is pop that in there, pop that in there, and now you've got a fully kicked 18650. Let's pull this out just a little bit so you can see what's going on there. And likewise, that goes back down through all the different batteries. I won't go through all of them, but we'll just go down to do an 18500 kick. Stick that in there like that. And we still have our kick in place here. Pop that in there. Screw that up. And there we go. Kicked 18500. Now, because this is a telescoping one, if you actually want to kick it, but you don't have the kick ring, obviously you're not going to be, without the kick ring, you're not going to be able to kick the 18650. But you can kick the 18500. So there's the 18500 in there, there's no kick ring on it. We can just pop the kick in on top of it there, pop that onto the top, just screw that on. And that is now an 18500 kicked. And likewise, you can do exactly the same with the 18350. So again, very, very versatile. Now, what we'll do is we'll take the battery out, and I'll just show you the top of it and how you basically take it apart. Now the best thing with these is to basically use a coin, like a 5-cent coin or a 2-cent coin, and just, you can see the little slots there, just pop them in, give it a turn, and then basically this little piece will come out. Just take it out here, and that's what it looks like there. It's made of brass as far as I know. And then below that you can see that there's a little screw there, and then also there's an insulator down there as well. Now my understanding, and it's a while since I've done this, but if you were actually putting in the raised version of this, and hang on a second, why don't we do it? What you actually do is you need to use the little, there's a little O-ring in there, because you need to basically raise the center piece here up a little bit. So if we were putting in the raised version of this, what we do is we take out the screw in the middle, which actually looks like it needs a bit of a clean. So there's that there. And what we will then do is put this little O-ring onto the screw, if I can get it on, and it's a wee bit fiddly. Okay, so that then just fits onto that like that, as you can see. And then what happens is this goes back in here, and we screw this back down like that. And then we get our raised one, which if you look at the two of them, you can see one of them is sort of wider than the other. So what you then do with this is, again, with your 5-cent coin or your 2-cent coin or whatever it is that you're going to use, just basically screw this back in. And now what you can see is that it's actually raised. So that means that if you're putting on an atomizer onto this that actually needs to pull its airflow from the side, this is the one that you're actually going to use to do that. But in doing so, it means that you're not going to have a completely flush sort of mount here. So if I can find something to put on top of this, we can see what it looks like. So let's put the K-Fun back on top of it, and I'll stick that in there like that there, and you can now see what's happening there, that you have this gap. Now what I want to do is also, I just want to make sure that with the contact, that by putting that little rubber grommet underneath it, that I've done the right thing. But as far as I know, that's the way it works. So I'll put the 350 back into it there, shove that in, screw it back up again, and we'll give it a go. And that works perfectly. So that's it. That's how you basically go from the raised one to the flush one. Now when I got this, when it was sent to me, it had the raised one in. I took it out straight away and put in the flush one. But I suppose they're the key things to remember. When you've got the raised one, you need to actually have the, on the little screw down there, you need to have the little O-ring underneath it to raise it up a little bit. But when you're actually putting in the flush mounted one, which is the one that I think probably most people would be using, let me just turn the power off here, just make sure I don't go and fry myself. All you literally have to do is just take that out. I'm going to take this screw out here again, except I'm going to do it with a screwdriver that it actually fits. So take the screw out, pop that out there, take the little, and this is the only really kind of fiddly part of it. So the easiest way to get this little O-ring off this is try and get your nail in on both sides above it, and then actually just peel it off like that. Okay, so if we're not using the raised one, which is this, That can then go back into the little baggie that it came in, pop that in, and then you can also pop in the little O-ring with it as well. So let's put the two of them in there, and that can go away for the future in case I ever need it. So there they are, back again. And to get this back ready for flush mounting, all you do is just get your screw back in there, again with no O-ring underneath it because it doesn't need it. Pop that in there like that, screw it down. Then we get our flush mounted top. Just get that sighted on the top. Got my 2-cent coin here. And we're back to flush. So, next thing we want to do is actually look at taking apart the switch, because as I mentioned before, sometimes what can happen is that this can basically build up, you can get leaks in here and it can get a little bit sticky, and this particular part here can become, slightly problematic in terms of, pushing it, because normally the action on it is really, really nice. So let's see about taking this apart. Okay, let's take this thing completely apart so we can see how it all works. So let's just get the top part out here. Put that to the side. Now, when we're taking this off here, what you want to do is make sure that you're not actually going to be scratching the metal. The easiest thing to use to get it off again is just use a 2-cent coin or something like that. What I tend to do is just get a bit of plastic underneath it here, so that when you're twisting it to just pop it off, that you're not actually going to scratch the metal. So literally you can just pop it off like that, and that's the top of that. So what we then need to do is we need to take out just inside here. Let's go a bit closer. There is, going around the edge, a little piece of plastic. So let's get that out. And that basically just lifts out like that. And that's that there, so we can put that down as well. Now what we need to do is basically push the whole switch through from the other side. Okay, so to do that, what you need to do is actually push the button down so it can get, because the whole thing is going to be coming out this way. So you push the button down, and then basically what you can do is just push the thing out. As you see here, it's starting to come out. Okay, now, as ever with these things, when you take them out, you need to be really careful, because within this particular one there is a little ball bearing, and we don't want that ball bearing to go missing on us. Now, as some people have said to me before, the best thing to do is when you know that there's a little piece which you're potentially going to lose, is just get yourself a plastic bag, and I just happen to have one here, and just do it within the plastic bag. And that just means then that if there's any little part which is potentially going to jump out, it's going to jump out into the bag. Now, if you look very closely at what's going on here, when I take this out, can you see? There's a little ball bearing there. And a little pin. Okay, so what we need to do is always make sure that we're not going to lose either of them. So there's the ball bearing, which actually sits on top of that little spring, and there's the little pin going across, and there is the spring that makes it go up and down. Now you can see from the size of that thing, you really, really want to make sure that you're not going to actually lose that. So I'll just put it into the center of that there for the moment. So again, using a bag or something to actually get these things apart in can actually be a good idea. Okay, well let's take this ring off here first. That can go down there with them, and then really all we need to do is basically just force these pins up out of it. Now they should just push up. There's the first one going there, And then we'll do the same for the other side there, and that should just push up there like that. So we have a pin there, and then we have this other pin here, which is just slightly tighter to get out. Right. So there are all the different bits that make up the switch. So if you need to, what you can do is just to clean everything off, and then basically you just have to sort of assemble it again. Okay, so let's just assemble it again, because that's all we need to do. We don't need to actually clean it. So first to go in is going to be our pins, and that is going to go into the top one there. Then going into the bottom one is going to be this one here. That goes in like that. I suppose we can put this, I don't know whether there's a particular rule as to which sort of sequence you do all of this in. I'm sure there probably is, but sure, let's just go with the way we're going at the moment. So that goes together there. Then what we need to do is actually get this switch unit inside. Okay, here comes the tricky bit. Basically, we have our little spring there, and what we need to do is pop the ball bearing on top of it. Another tip is sometimes to actually just have a bowl or something like that underneath you while you're doing it, so that if it does run, it's actually going to get caught somewhere. It's not going to go flying off. So then just basically push down the ball bearing like that. And then what we need to do is basically push the spring and the ball bearing into the housing like that. So it's now held there. Keep holding on to it. Hold on to it for dear life, right? And then what we need to do is just get our little rubber piece up at the top there like that. And then what we can do is we can actually start pushing this in here. So as we push it in, basically it will hold the switch in place, or rather the ball bearing in place. Then what we need to do is just sight it so that it's basically in the right place. Okay, so that should be just about right there. Then what we need to do is just put in that piece like that. Now we're slightly off center as it stands at the moment, so we can just shove that across a little bit, get that centered. Okay, now that we have all that in place, all we need to do is basically put the button on. Now what you need to do is make sure that you have it pointing in the right direction. So something like that should be fine. It means if a turn, turn, turn. Now what I next need to do is make sure that when it is up like that, that it's firing and that it isn't in the lock position, because there's no set way for this to actually go onto the thing underneath it. So let's put this on. And oh yes, we need to put our top back on here as well, so let's do that. And then just screw that down firmly like that. Now, where have I put, sure, I'll put something else on it. Put this on here, this is a Sophia. And that's actually not firing. That is firing. So I've put on the button wrong, so what I need to do is take that off, and if we know that that is now firing, what we can do is just pop this off, and what we need to then do is just reposition this so that it's pointing up the right way. So we know that that's where we want it firing, so that's where we want to actually place it like that. Okay, just push it in, you can hear it firing there, and then if I actually turn it like that, it's not firing. So that's basically how you put it all back together again. So there we have it. The little roller, fantastic thing, beautifully simple, very, very elegant, you know, in terms of its form. You've got the logo on the bottom of it there. The fact that it's lockable is just great. It just means you can put it in your pocket, you know, you're not going to set yourself on fire. That's just a little pro dripper on top of it. And yeah, for a dinky little thing, that is really quite nice. and it works a treat. So nothing more to say. I love the roller. I think it's fantastic. The Dingo is pretty much the same thing, except it's not telescopic like the roller is. Atmizoo in Greece are famous for their customer service. They really are good down there. As I said, you can get it with a kick ring. This happens to have a kick ring with it. You know, I bought that as a separate. They have different finishes. They've got polished, they've got matte, they've got ice matte like this. You can also get custom versions where if you want one bit polished, one bit ice matte, one bit normal, stainless steel brushed, you know, you can do all of that as well. They also, I believe, they have some inserts for the inside there, which are made from rhodium or something like that, which is a very, very conductive metal. But I know that when I ordered this one, I think from when I ordered it to when it arrived, so it was coming from Greece all the way to Ireland. I think it arrived in, I think was it 3 days? In fact, it could have even been 2 days. It was something ridiculously fast. You know, much faster than if it was coming from the UK or Germany or anywhere else. So I don't know what was going on there, but I don't seem to be the only person who that's happened to. That seems to, they've just got some sort of system going on down there, which works really well. I know their support system as well in terms of, you know, any people have any issues or whatever, they're very, very good at responding and giving good advice as to how to fix these things. So very, very good, very reputable company, Atmizoo in Greece, and obviously the web address is up there. So that's the end of it. I'm not going to say any more. The roller, brilliant thing. Highly recommend it. See you again soon. Cheers.